So we're just going to start off with preamble. We the people.
We the people
of the Aboriginal Republic of North America.
of the Aboriginal Republic of North America,
Asserting our natural Aboriginal rights.
asserting our natural Aboriginal rights
As the oldest recorded.
as the oldest recorded
Aboriginal Indigenous people of America.
Aboriginal Indigenous people of the Americas,
Consisting of. An Aboriginal Union of Indigenous people.
an Aboriginal Union of Indigenous people
Living in accord.
living in accord
With natural law.
with natural law.
The law of our ancestors.
The law of our ancestors.
Do hereby recognize all nationals.
Do hereby recognize all nationals
Of the Aboriginal Republic of North America.
of the Aboriginal Republic of North America
As a unified community.
as a unified community,
Establish our divine right.
establish our divine right
To self-rule.
to self-rule,
Common defense of our nation.
common defense of our nation,
A complete unified will.
a complete unified
For
will
progress and prosperity.
for progress and prosperity
By and for our people.
by and for our people,
Establishing justice.
establishing justice
By way of natural law.
by way of natural law
And equality.
and equality
And complete autonomy.
and complete autonomy
As a nation.
as a nation.
Ashe.
Ashe. Peace, family. Peace.
So, real quick, my appellation is Troy Smokes. I'm currently residing in Chief of Shechem Exum. Definitely appreciate everyone for coming out today. Well, we're going to be going through two different things today. We're going to be talking about some economic stuff, but we're also going to be talking about our status. The very thing we were supposed to talk about last week, but we were taken off track because, you know, sometimes spirit leads you down a different path, and that's okay. But this particular week, we're going to be dealing with two different topics. So we're going to be having Chief Ali share some information first and foremost, which this gentleman definitely have a great deal of respect for him, for all that he's been able to accomplish. For those of you that do not know who he is the individual that actually started on Aboriginal Republic of North America. So he literally took time out, did some research. He saw the fact that we as a people needed some remedy brought in various areas, whether it be economic, health, social, financial, mental, spiritual, all the various areas, and said, hey, we need to begin to create a body politic that's going to support who we are. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure all of you have gone to school, you got educations, right? Who went to high school? Who went to parochial school, you know, elementary school, all those different things, right?
Yes, sir.
You'll notice that in the beginning, when you start studying history, the first thing you learn was the African slave. But then you learn about the kings and queens of Europe. So where do you think that mentally set you in regards to who you are as a people? If the first thing you discover is that I am from a slave, what do you think your mentality will be from that point forward? So the beauty of this body politics is it begins to teach you your history relative to who you are and how you interface as a people to create for yourself a paradigm shift that allows you to now win. Does that make sense? So we're going to work toward making sure that we win as a group of individuals. So without further ado, I just want to introduce to some, present to others, Chief Ali.
Peace. Peace, family. How's everybody feeling?
Great.
How's everybody thinking today?
Great.
All right. Anybody here for the first time? Never been here? Okay. Welcome. Welcome
He came
again.
from Richmond, Virginia.
Absolutely. Brother drove all the way from Richmond.
All right, give Richmond a hand.
Yeah.
All right, so what we usually do here is, you know, do our preamble and then warm you up and then go right into the presentation. Our presentation today is on identity theft, all right, in the sense of history. Usually our classes flow. The first class of the month we deal with our heritage or some type of spiritual aspects of our history. Then we deal with law the following week. The following week we usually deal with economics. We're going to do some part of economics today. And then the last week we usually deal with health. And those areas that we talk about are usually to introduce you to concepts that are actually a part of our indigenous community. So the community is made up of 12 ministries. You can get this guy right here before you leave if you're interested in specifically getting a study on it, because it lays out the parameters in which we operate. And after I get through the day, it's going to be clear on why we're talking about indigenous government or indigenous communities as a socio-political remedy to our current state, environmental state as a people, political state, etc. Now, how many people in your family have ever heard someone in your family say, "Oh, we have Native American in our family"?
Yeah.
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 And sometimes we look at them and we're like, well, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And then, because the generation that we're in, usually it's the great grandparents from my generation who gave us that information. And some of you who are, a generation older than me, then it was the grandparents. We didn't do a lot of research. Most of it was word of mouth, handed down from probably the oldest elder who was around, who still had some knowledge, who was probably born in the late 1800s or something like that, or early 1900s, who still has some of that knowledge. So today, that kind of knowledge is just folktale to people who are a little, younger than me. It's like, oh, well, maybe, maybe not. All right, but the reason why it is vital is because no people who have an existence on this planet can survive sufficiently without a thorough knowledge of their identity. They can't do it. Right? You have to know something about your heritage, because in your heritage, what is passed down, all right, to each one of us is all of the intricacies of what a family represents. All right, a family represents a vehicle in which we survive in society. All right, and each family that has existed has had some level of experience that can be passed down. All right, so we're talking about the ability to pass down things that deal with skill sets, that deal with understanding people, that deal with how you interface with people, character development, all of the things that we see on this planet right now, whether it be an economic thing, a culinary thing, something that deals with mathematics, something that deals with how this building was constructed, was passed down through families. The ability to execute it. All right? Where were the first printing presses made at to make books? That's a tradition that's been passed down through families, and then it expanded to greater groups. So when we look at the so-called African American, we are looking at a people who have a large level of their family infrastructure destroyed from its native existence, from how it was operated, and where we can look in their history and see success. All right. Today, some people still execute those things and keep, a very close-knit family, but some people don't know their mother, some people don't know their father, some people don't know any of their parents. They grew up with an aunt, auntie, grandma. Some people grew up in foster homes. Some people grew up homeless in the street, running around. So now, when we're vacated away from that safe haven, it produces the type of society that we have today. All right? It is not normal for people to act the way that we're acting. Not we necessarily in this room, but the majority of the people that we see outside. It's not normal. All right? It's not safe. It's not peaceful. All right? It produces stress. It produces economic depravity. All right? It can produce disease. It can produce all types of things that go on that create problems for us as a people. So when we come and we talk about our heritage, we're talking about a dynamic that can really get us to understand what happened, what is happening, and what's about to happen. Specifically to you, then to your family, and then to the community at large. So, your great-grandparents who told you about Native history weren't making up things. One of the things that's predominant amongst African Americans who learn about Native American tradition is they have this particular type of concept in their mind. And the concept is, we're African, in the sense of how you understand African, and that we became Native because our family some time ago married into some Native tribes, and then by that marriage, the children who were produced became part Native. That is usually how we construct the genesis of, oh, we got Native American in our family. That's how we understand it. That's how we're taught. That's how we're guided on it. That's even how some literature produces in schools. But that is not a full explanation of the history. Matter of fact, it's not even an authentic explanation of the history. By authentic, I mean real. Like what really happened. All right? And when you start getting to the authentic explanation, it begs other questions. All right? Because if I were to propose to you, well, wait a minute, the people who you see on reservations today have history documented in codexes. Codex is a book in Mexico or other places that say that they were not indigenous. And they describe where they came from. And then modern science allows for us to say, let's check this. Let's check the DNA and check the people of the planet and see where these populations predominate at. All right? Did someone walk across ice 16 to 12,000 years ago and get here? Is that how Native Americans got here? Meaning that, you know, there was no population here prior to that time. It was just, you know, America was under an ice sheet in certain ice ages, so no one lived here. All right? You ever walked out in the cold?
Oh, yeah.
It was real cold. There's been some storms here. I remember when I was at Temple University, we had a big snowstorm. It was 29 inches. It's a lot of snow, right? Yeah, it's in 90. So, I've walked in that snow. Could you imagine walking 10,000 miles in that snow? And it begs another question. What you walking for? Where you going? You know? So, you know, we look at the Discovery Channel and say, look, oh, it was an ice age and the people in Siberia all of a sudden just started to walk across the ice and they arrived in North America. It didn't make any human sense. It's cold outside, and if you live in a cold environment, some people do, you know, we have Eskimos, they have learned how to create environments where they are to keep it warm, an igloo, how it's designed, the shape, you know, produces heat inside of it. So why would they leave their igloos and then go somewhere else? Thousands of miles away, you know? Or other histories we're given. People in Africa chilling, right? Africa got everything. And then they decide, well, we're just going to walk to Europe. Oh, we're going to walk to Arabia. No, we're going to walk to India. So they create these, out of these theories, right? And now what you have is, you have, it's kind of like a politician when he or she gets into office. When they get into office, they have a theme that they want to, you know, guide the office by. And anything that's apolitical or against what they're trying to develop is going to be against their policy. So you have scientists who develop policy, who are guided by the people who fund them, who give them the money to do the archaeological studies, etc. And those wealthy people have political agendas. They have agendas to make sure that information is shaped a certain way. And that shaping of information in a certain way is usually connected to some business they're also involved in. So I need people to think like this, because I need them to behave like this over here. Because if they think like this, and they behave like this over here, it's going to keep my money coming. So now a lot of people who invest in the state's public education system, privately invest, they want the people to think a certain way. And we're going to come to, you know, how they want you to think. But coming back to this Native American thing and the basic concept of it, I want to show you some things that might, you know, give you something to think about. Now, if you've read this book right here, any one of you who have read this book, The Lost Aboriginal Heritage of the So-Called Negro African American, you've seen this picture in this book. All right? This particular book was written to talk about everything that I'm talking about. All right? And first it starts off with a historical component to it. Then it branches off to educational, political, and economic. Those areas. Starts off with historical, then it branches off into educational, political, and economic. So I'm starting here because this is Mexico. It's a picture from a place called a Temple of Warriors in a place called Chichen Itza. All right? And in this area, you have, this is probably a few thousand years ago. All right? And I got this picture from a book that I had to pay $650 to get. As a matter of fact, there's a special process to get a book like this, and I got it from the Smithsonian Institute, where they have to extract the book from a vault, seal it by certain librarians, and then give it to you. All right? It's very important for us to understand why this book was $650, why it's stuck in a vault somewhere, and what it has to do with black people in America, just in general. All right, so what you're looking at are the native people of Mexico. All right, of course you see the skin, it's black. All right, and then you see these other groups of people. They have no clothes on, and they're being arrested. So who are these people, and who are these people? All right, These people today are sometimes called Olmecs and Mayans. All right, these people. They're considered the oldest, most authentic record-keeping civilization in the Americas. When you think about Native America as an anthropologist, as a person in a university, you're thinking studying these groups of people. These people are from groups of what we would call today Austronesian populations. Austronesian populations are from areas in the Pacific, all right? Larger land masses like Cambodia, Indonesia, all those areas, all right? So these people came to specific locations on boats at certain times, and when they invaded, the indigenous people were pretty much putting them into prison, right? Making sure and securing that they would invade their territories. All right, so some unique things that are seen here. All right, the first unique thing is that, of course, you see the black people arresting them. The black people are have the shields with the feathers on their head, like you see Native Americans. All right, so this is from a wall in a temple. All right, so this is painted thousands of years ago. Why? Who wanted to keep a record of these events? And why would they want to keep a record of these events? All right, that was their way of doing a CNN. You watch the news. They didn't have news. They kept records of events that were going on for the people who came after them. Okay, so now when you think about Native Americans with feathers and all of this and shields, here are the Native Americans right here. Here are the foreigners. Now these people today are calling themselves Native Americans. These people today are calling themselves Native Americans. Natives. These people are called all kinds of stuff. Negro, African American, or all types of things. All right? Uniquely, when you read into the history of this, these foreigners were painted with a special paint that was used for tattoos. All right? And the paint was so that they could never wash it off, so they could always be identified as, who they were. Of course, we can look at their phenotype and see who they were, but we kept the paint on them. Now, sidebar, and I use the sidebar often, when you watch the early movies in America, and you see the prisoners with the stripes on, this is where it comes from. Striping prisoners. All right? So when you see that, you're wearing the bar and stripes, this is the significant history that it actually developed from. Okay? All right? So I'm going to go through some of these just so you can get some pictures of this. This is another view of it. All right? The Aboriginals. They have all kinds of signs. Here you have the Amaru, which is the dragon. This represents a constellation. Okay? And we can keep going down a little bit. All right. Other images from there. You can see the facial of what you would call Africoid features. That's what it's called in anthropology. All right. Now these people weren't. That wasn't their determination that they would be Africoid, but that's a modern expression of what they would look like based on. What they would be determined based on anthropology, archaeology. These are the people. See how they painted them? All right? And they kept these images for us. All right? Other images. All right? So what you'll see is in all of the ancient depictions, the indigenous people had deeply melanated skin. So who are these people? Where did they disappear? Now this is the explanation you're given. The explanation you're given is, they disappeared. How did thousands of people who have intricate levels of civilization just disappear? All right? They had to set up all types of things to even be able to develop what they wear. That's a whole culture. Why they wear what they wear. Who was developing this? Who was making it? Where were they making it at? What animals did they have to keep in husbandry to get the feathers and the other things? All right? How did they knit their clothes? What type of agriculture did they develop to produce the things, cotton, before you was picking as a so-called slave, and then developed the intricate ability to knit or make the garments for themselves. What type of metallurgy did they develop to build the type of shields that they have? Where did they learn it? Who taught them? You see what I'm saying? As opposed to some naked people just being in ropes. Pay attention. Pay attention. So these are some images. Now I'm going to show you some other images. Check this out. These are just more images. Now, let me deal with this. I have to deal with this. The whole concept of, human sacrifice. They took them to the top of the pyramids and they sacrificed them to the gods. Right? This is what they say about the indigenous people, Europeans. They said about the Mayans. They said about the Olmec. They said about the Inca. They said about a whole bunch of people. Check this out. What was happening in these places is when you had these foreigners, and look, you can see physically. Here's the black person. Here's the pale person. Look, he's holding him down, and they're about to take his head off. They weren't sacrificing them to any gods. Let me give you a depiction of what it actually was. Is Mumia Abu Jamal being sacrificed to European gods?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a sense, right? But today what they call it is capital punishment allegedly for a crime that's been committed. So if you give the electric chair, then allegedly you committed a crime, you went to a jury, you found guilty, the state has a law, and the law for this particular thing is we're going to execute you. We have the same types of things. These are executions. These are public executions of foreigners in our land. There's not no sacrifices to no gods. In the sense that, these people are making it up. They don't use any literature to validate these things now. So they start making, and what they do when they do that is they try to shape you into, these people are pagan and heathen. White people are very strategic about how they get inside of your mind to get you to avoid studying your own culture. They paint it a certain way and they generate an emotion in you. And so now you don't want to study that kind of stuff. You'd rather go to the institutions that they created. All right? Directly or indirectly. When I say directly, you go into them and walk in. Indirectly, you take on the culture of them, and even though you're not in them. All right? So all that is a part of heritage. So check this out. Let's just keep going. Look, we went as far as to show these Europeans. Hold on. That's one of them. I want to show you this. All right. These were paler people. Same place in Mexico, thousands of years ago, with blonde hair. Being captured at sea for trying to invade areas. See, you got the ropes on them. Who are these people? All right. We call them Nordic today, or later they got called Vikings. All right, trying to come into and invade indigenous areas. We had sea boats and everything capturing these people at sea. So there's an influx of them at certain periods of time. So white folks came before Christopher Columbus too, but they were coming to invade indigenous lands. So now we need to understand the dynamics of world history, not based on what white folks have told you. They lied to you. They lied to you for a political benefit. And we've been trusting them. But they won't show you these pictures because they don't want you to see what this is. Who's grabbing them by the forelocks? Who's arresting these people? Who's doing that? All right? Where did these people come from? So we answered all those questions in the book. I'm just trying to show you some of the images so you can, get abreast of, the information in them. All right? So let me go here. Let me give you a little bit of history. I'm going to give you two histories. All right? I'm going to read this straight off. All right? North American invasion chronology. I want to show you where the people who are calling themselves Native Americans come from, because there's two groups of them. Some of them are just white people who paid $5 to get on censuses in the 1800s. You ever heard the term, Dr. Claude Anderson called them $5 Indians? You ever heard that? You can look it up. $5 Indians were white people who came in the late 1800s to get put on censuses as Native Americans.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
paid $5.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And now when you go to the Cherokee, you see the Attorney General for the Cherokee is white. He's a white man. All right, the Delaware chief in Oklahoma, he's white. You search their lineage, it goes back to Ireland and other things. How you got these names that go back to Ireland, but you're a Native American chief?
Mm-hmm.
Think about this now. Think about how deep this is. So let's read them where they came from. All right, you can take some notes, some mental notes on this, and this is being streamed on blackandnobel.com, so you can go back and watch it. All right, earliest population dispersals occurred at the same time as changes in environmental landscape. So what's going to show is that these people were having environmental catastrophes in their areas, trying to flee the areas, and then they ended up sailing into what is now California and the western coast of Mexico. All right, particularly rising sea levels which submerged a huge ancient continent now called Sunderland. Dr. Martin Richards in Climate Change and Post-Glacial Human Dispersals in Southeast Asia, that's a paper on this subject, confirms these migrations. The earlier out of Taiwan model proposed that humans migrated south from the northern area of Taiwan, yet DNA evidence has proposed the opposite direction of migrations, originating from the south. Dr. Stephen Oppenheimer was the first to propose the island Southeast Asian migration model in his material, Eden in the East, the drowned continent of Southeast Asia. The latest study, which has been led by Leeds University and published in the journal Molecular Biology and Evolution, shows that a substantial fraction of the mitochondrial DNA, that's the DNA in women, all right, lines, inherited by female descendants, have been evolving within the region of the islands of Southeast Asia for a much longer period. Some since modern humans have arrived about 50,000 years ago. The DNA lineages show population dispersals, movement, at the same time as sea level rises, and also show migrations into Taiwan, east, out to New Guinea, and into the Pacific. So these people were going up into what is China now because of climate change, all right, over into New Guinea and out into the Pacific to try to figure out what to do. The author proposes here that the earliest migrations of the invading Aztec and Yucatec types and current so-called Native American phenotypes are from this geographic region. Dr. Oppenheimer from the Oxford University School of Anthropology said, "One of my main predictions in the book was that 3 major floods following the Ice Age forced the inhabitants to escape in boats and flee to less flood-prone regions. By examining mitochondrial DNA from the descendants in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, we now have strong evidence to support the flooding theory, and this is possibly why Southeast Asia has a richer store of flood myths." All right, so they're basically saying this area has flood myths. We can find it from studying the environment, and it matches the migration of the mitochondrial DNA. All right, so let's go down a little bit more. I want to read. I know sometimes it gets technical, but we technicians. Martin Richards, the first professor of archaeogenetics at Leeds University, led the research team. He stated, "I think the study results are going to be a big surprise for many archaeologists and linguists, on whose studies conventional migration theories are based. These population expansions had nothing to do with agriculture, but were most likely to have been driven by climate change. In particular, global warming and the resulting sea level rises at the end of the Ice Age between 15,000 and 7,000 years ago." All right? Geologists place this occurrence at the time of the last Ice Age, yet we come up with the exact date. This is me going into something called geomagnetic chronology. I don't want to go into it too much, but let's do this. Now, that's what the scientists are saying. Let's go see what the Aztecs are saying. All right? So now, let me qualify what I'm about to say. The Aztecs are the oldest invading group. That's what I'm laying the base for. All right? And they invaded an indigenous black population in Mexico. All right? The Aztec came into the Valley of Mexico as a foreign people via invasion. This is what I'm laying the basis for. Now I'm going to give you some sources so you can study. Too many times we don't have the actual information. We'll make this into a DVD so you can study it, but it's nothing like taking mental or physical notes. The Codex Mendoza, that's a codex, highlights the fact that they started their lineal kingships around 1320 AD. So that's only about 700 years ago. You have the Aztecs saying our kings, we start recording our kings. Who are all these people here with all these languages and pyramids and mounds and all stuff, all the stuff that was here then? Before that time. All right. Who were they? In essence, they had an existence on the land for about 200 years before the Spanish invasion. So the Aztecs had only been here about 200 years before the Spanish got here. Hernan Cortez and all those. Nahuatl legend versus Nahuatl writing on the origin of the Aztecs. Nahuatl writing in the Auburn Codex, it's clear that the Aztec were slaves of the people entitled Aztec Chichomostoc. Aztec legends of their march into the Valley of Mexico match the eruption of Sunset Crater, which is north of Flagstaff, Arizona, in the current geography of the southwestern United States of America. This event at Sunset Crater occurred around 1064 AD, according to a team of researchers who published their research in the work, A Multidisciplinary Reevaluation of the Date of the Eruption of the Sunset Crater Volcano, Northern Arizona, paper presented at the 76th Annual Meeting of the Society for American Archaeology, Sacramento, California. Let me stop for a second. So see now, these white folks are all into studying your indigenous history. They set up symposiums. They get their scientists to write papers about it. They exchange the papers, and they increase their knowledge, and more than anything, and most importantly, they keep it away from you. Know how to keep it away from you? Know how to keep it away from you?
No, tell me.
They keep it away from you by depending on the fact that you are uninterested. So they're really not keeping it away from you. Think about that. They don't have to do no great work. The fact in their mind is, oh, they're uninterested. They're not going to go search for no papers about who's invading their indigenous lands. How are they all Negroes? They know that. Or they're African American, something made up by Jesse Jackson. All right? The same one who got his own brother killed. Martin Luther King Jr. Same one who set him up. How are you going to let a con artist name us? All right? So they're studying these particular things, and this is what they found. All right? Looking at the way this history is recorded, we must come to several conclusions in this paper. It was a natural disaster that caused the migration of the Aztec from the area of the Southwest. So now we have them coming from the Pacific, landing in areas in California and in the western United States, where those tribes and those phenotypes still exist. All right, you can go out there and you can look at the Aztec and the Sunni and different, and you can see that they're Austronesian. They're from those populations in the Pacific. All right. So they migrated from that area, from the southwest area of what we call the United States of America. Volcanic eruptions were recorded in that area at the times mentioned and have been verified by legitimate modern science. The Aztec must have been migrants to that area in the American Southwest as well as the Valley of Mexico. The proof is that they make no mention of their own calendar or practices during that time. So now, the Aztec, prior to getting into Mexico and coming amongst these indigenous populations that already had calendars, already had all this information, they don't mention nothing about what they had before that. That's like if we come into this room and we got all these books in here, right? And somebody ain't never read a book. Never read no knowledge. And we got all the knowledge. We got stuff on ancient African history, Babylon, writing and all this stuff. And they come in here, right? And they start reading some of our books and working for us. Then after maybe a few weeks, right? They take over the store. Or part of the store. Then they start writing about their history. But wait a minute, that's not your history. Those are our books. You didn't write none of those books. You didn't write any of those books, right? So the Aztec must have been migrants to that area in the American Southwest, as well as the Valley of Mexico. The proof is that they make, again, no mention of their own calendar or practices. According to their own legends, now these are Aztec legends, the Aztec were enslaved by a people they call Aztec Chicomostoc. the Aztec mentioned in their own records that they were preceded by the serpent people. The serpent people. The snake. The dragon. All right? The word Azteca, meaning people, and Chichomaztac, if delineated based on the language of the natives of the Mexican Valley, can be easily seen to be she, all right? Because this first word, chi, is a corruption of this word, she, which are the names of the Olmecs. All right? From the language, these two are connected. Like you have areas that are called Chiapas, all right, which means land of the she. That's a city right now in Mexico. And then Comots or Comots, being originally Kumats, all right, which is in the Quiche word, it means snake. So they told you they come, when we got here, the serpent people were here. All right. This Chichomaztac is She Kumats, or people of the snake. All right. She, spelled sometimes Chi or Che, also means tree. And it depicts what? The Quetzal bird, who is called Cook. All right. Like Quetzalcoatl. All right. The feathered serpent. All right. That's just mythology about these people. Okay. The she. And so now you're getting, see now when you see a Native American wearing feathers, it just makes sense. Like, oh, that's where you got that from. All right? And what does this mean? All right? Because this has an innate meaning. If you go to the tribes, they don't know what it means. What does the feathered serpent mean? Start making up some stuff. Everything that we did was based on something in nature, astronomy, or the human body. That's it. If you want to find out what it means, at its core, because we used it. We used it in, our practices and keeping the body healthy. We use it in nature, agriculture, life sciences, or we use it in the stars to study our own history, our own future, navigation, all right? All of those things. So that's how you know you can peer into a culture and you get an explanation. If it's based on any of those three things, it's authentic. If it's not, they're just making up some stuff. Oh, the serpent is about this myth about this, animal that used to live, that had feathers and scales. Oh, it's about the reptilians. That's what the white folks come in with the New Age stuff. Oh, it's the reptilians, see? The serpent people are the reptilian shapeshifters. No, that was us. The ability to shapeshift is based on biochemistry and melanin. Literally. All right? The reptilian that they're talking about are the people who are stuck in the base of their brain and behavior. You see what I'm saying? And they're only dealing with the innate rudiments of survival and fear as a means of lifestyle. All right? So now we have these serpent people. All right? The she or Cucamonga clearly indicates she people who develop the traditions of the bird and the snake, the feathered serpent. The feathered serpent represents a constellation called Draco. Draco is a constellation in the northern hemisphere, right? And it is the place where if you watch throughout the whole year, you'll see constellations rise and set. Scorpio, Gemini, you can watch them go across the horizon. This particular constellation goes in a circle around itself. So sometimes you see the serpent with his tail in his mouth in different traditions. All right? That represents that constellation. And it's showing you directional astronomy. You can tell what's north and what's south based on looking at this star. All right? So when so-called Harriet Tubman was saying follow the North Star, she was following the feathered serpent.
Wow.
You follow me?
Yeah.
So now that's tradition. We got directional astronomy. We know where to travel. We got all those things and a whole lot more. All right? So it's called the feathered serpent, and it was given feathers because it was called the constellation that never set. It was forever floating in the sky. All right? So they used the mythology of Quetzalcoatl to concretize that. All right? So the sequence of the mythos of the Aztecs is jumbled and shows they were without their own oral traditions. They adopted the ones that were already here. They didn't have their own. All right? And writing. All right? They weren't writing. We literally have the hieroglyphic that shows the Olmec with the writing utensils in their hands. It's called the Azapa Stele. All right? So these things are written down all over and did not have a stable, civilized, autonomous settlement anywhere in the Americas due to their migrations and lack of independent oral traditions and writing. Based on records left, they could not accurately tell their own lineage, history, and story from any point beyond their settlement and adoption of She culture. She is the oldest name of the Native Americans. All right. Their prehistory before the She is vague and suggests a Bedouin savage people, just as depicted in the glyphs by the Aboriginal blacks, the She. Put more simply, the Aztecs are one among many migrating factions originating from the island Southeast Asia area, where the true records, genetics, and climate factors would have them abandoning their own homeland in waves of migrations. Our position is that some of the waves of migrations were due to climate, and others were due to being banned, all causing them to end up in the Western land in the Americas. All right. So there are other things that support this, and you can get the book to read that. I don't want to over-exhaust that point. All right. So let me go back. So this is where these people come from. We can identify literally where they come from, and then after we do that, we go back here. See if I can do it. All right, so I'm going to continue this history. Look, this is from the John Carter Brown Library of Early American Images. All right. Left are the deeply hued aboriginals in now what is known as Virginia. Brother said he came from Virginia. This is how they were depicted. Black skin from Virginia all the way down into the south, all the way down to the west. They had these images. The right were the Mingwe. The Mingwe were the people who allied with George Washington. We call them Iroquois. All right? They were foreigners who are now misnamed Native Americans. So when you study Native American history, you keep getting this thing where, oh, there were Native American alliances with the Europeans, the British Americans. Which ones? Give me the demographic. Because what you're going to find out is a race war was going on amongst the natives. All right? And white folks just added in their little thing. All right? Check this out. In Virginia, speaking of Virginia, when you go back to the tribes of Virginia, they, when the first English came, they called them Powhatan. 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 You hear it, if you see in Native American lore, Chief Powhatan. All right? Chief Powhatan was supposed to be the chief of the Powhatan tribes or confederacy. All right? And they described these people, some of them as 7 feet tall, giants, muscular builds. All right? Powhatan's tribe got into a war with an English general who is called Lord Delaware. D-E-L-L-A-W-A-R-R. Delaware. Got into a war with him, and when he captured the group of indigenous people, he renamed them the Delaware. So they became, so now misnomers again. You follow me? But the word Powhatan comes from this glyph right here, which is a She glyph, 2 words, Pawa Tun. Tun is the calendar of the Olmec Mayans, the Tun calendar. It was a calendar where you charted the movement of the sun. All right. Pawa meant the 4 points, the 4 points of the 4 stones, and those were the solstices. So when the English came, they were having a celebration, and they called it the Powhatan celebration. It was a celebration of the equinoxes and the solstices, so they named the people after their celebration. Follow me? But it goes all the way back. So now if you go ask a linguist who studies Algonquian language, where does the word Powhatan come from? Oh, we don't know. But this white boy who wrote this book found this glyph, and he didn't relate it to the Powhatan. He just said, oh, look, this glyph right here is Powhatan. I saw that like, wow, look, that's a direct lineage. All right? Same culture, all right, in North America. All right? Check it out. We play basketball. They play basketball too. All right. Yeah. So you in the game, you in between the thing, and they have this ball and they throw it through this hole. Except the courts were sideways. Instead of like this, they were like this. All right. So white folks got to have books of them coming amongst the natives, seeing these games, and then later developing these games. But look, the Mayans and the Shi and the Olmec are still the people who are the best at these games. We just call them Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan. Still doing the same games. The only difference is white folks are making the money. They're the owners. Think about this now. We were playing football and all these particular things. So now, how important is culture to economics? See, that's a different thing if you can sit Kobe Bryant in a room and show him where the game come from. Listen, the Smithsonian Institute has skeletons that are 7'6", 8 giants. They call these people giants, native giants. They're still here. What do you think all these people, all these basketball players are? They're giants.
Oh my God.
You follow me? That's right. So the history is not making anything up. They're still here. All right? The giant mound builders. All right? They're still here. So the heritage has an economic component to it to give us clarity on where these things come from. All right? We don't have to keep believing. Let's just go through all of it. Every angle that you come from is going to verify this point that Brother Ali is trying to share with you. Look, the first European to come on the North American soil was not Christopher Columbus. All right? He came to the islands. The first one to come here is Verrazano. All right? Verrazano was from Italy, and they named a bridge after him in New York. Verrazano's Bridge. Right? Anybody been across that bridge?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. Look at what he wrote. He went from what we call Florida now up into the areas of New York, and he described the people that he saw. What did he physically see? He said some of them wear garlands of what?
Bird feathers.
Bird feathers. So this is in the 1500s, still thousands of years from me showing you the pictures of the feathers in glyphs. They're still carrying on the same culture. They are what? Dark in color, not unlike the Ethiopians with thick black hair. That's not the Native Americans that you see today. These are the people that he saw first. So now, your children are going to school and participating in menticide. Menticide. This is the forbidden history for them. This is forbidden. You know what this means if your children learn this in one generation? That means that they have to reshape all the curriculums. That's books, that's paper, that's money. That's programming. You see what I'm saying? That's investment. Who owns these books? Who owns these companies? Who's writing these curriculums? They don't want to rewrite them. We're going to have to rewrite them. All right? But what happens when your children learn this? All right? Because this is about investment in your heritage. When they learn this, they start saying, well, wait a minute. When I went to Mexico, you mean to tell me our people built that? When I went to Cahokia Mountain, you mean to tell me my people built that? Wow. That's deep. You know what I mean? That's a psychological release. And it puts things into perspective. You know what I mean? It redefines what we're calling slavery. And all these other things that we are identifying. Look, I can keep going on and on. Other archives. The Swedes, when they came to the Delaware Valley, all right, the upper part up here in Philadelphia, southern New Jersey, they made paintings of the people that they saw with afros and turbans on. All right? So we can go through every group of so-called Europeans and see them in their early annals identifying the indigenous populations in this way. All right? So now what does this mean? Now anybody know who this is right here? Who's that?
Ronald Reagan.
Anybody know what he's doing right there?
Signing the Japanese.
Signing checks.
Checks.
He's signing checks. What was the check for?
Reparations.
For what? What did they do to the people?
Internment camps.
After World War II. Right, exactly. They put them in internment camps, did all kind of experimentations on them, you know what I mean? All types of things. And then it was a political outcry. Why? Because the people knew their nationality. That's a simple part of it. Ain't nothing big about it. They didn't change their names to whatever, some misnomer. They knew who they were. There was a political outcry about it. And look, the people who had been in the camps were already dead.
Right.
This is 2.5 generations later. Their descendants, who some kind of way got identified, all right, and said, oh, you did this to our parents. President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, providing his signature on the congressional law, providing reparations for placing Japanese Americans in concentration internment camps during World War II. They're not the only ones. Go ahead.
So they have a group of lawyers to get the deal done? Like, how exactly they go about getting
Yeah,
that
they
deal
brought
done?
a particular group of lawyers to arbitrate with the Congress.
How many lawyers was it?
I have no idea. I don't know how many lawyers. I mean, I don't even know if they name them. You know what I mean? As far as the numbers, we can look back at the appropriations for the bill and see if they have records of the arbitration or something like that.
So why is there no organizations like right now? I know ARNA is doing some type of reparations. Why is there no deal trying to attack the United Nations or even the American government to get reparations?
Why do you think it's no deal?
I'm saying for us, we don't have to wait for them to tell us to do it. We have black.
Yeah, I'm just asking you a question. Why don't you think it's their people? Why? Just take a guess.
The nationality. They don't know the nationality.
Okay, so yeah, they don't even know to do it.
Right.
They're not even educated enough to bring forth that dynamic. So part of what we're doing is a mass education to generalize the knowledge, and the other people that's doing. We're not the only ones. So as we generalize the knowledge amongst the people, now we can take the people who have sound mind to act on those particular things. All right? But we need some social leverage. You know what I mean? And it takes time to re-educate people from these things. Years, literature, publishing, teaching, seminars, or whatever you want to do to engross people into this type of knowledge. All right, but I just wanted to show you that so you can get an idea of what was happening there. All right, so let's scroll forward. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just real quick. One of the things that I noticed, even if you have conversations amongst ourselves, some of us are like, oh, well, I'm black. Another person say, well, I'm African American. Another person say, well, I'm originally Native American. Another person will say, well, I'm Christian, I'm Buddhist, I'm Muslim. So because we have so many issues with how we identify ourselves, there can't be one body politic brought against them in any way, shape, or form, because in fact we're confused. You'll see some of us say, oh, just forget about it, that didn't happen to us, that, it's not affecting us today. I literally have people, that are, in a position that said, that didn't affect me. So, it's so much, we're not even clear on what we want.
Right. And see, here's how we address those. Those are distractions.
Yeah.
People who talk like that, good, stay over there.
That's right.
That's how you deal with them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you allow for that energy to interpose onto your agenda, then you get distracted.
Right.
Any Negro who wants to stay a Negro, we have no authority to change them. That's what you call self-identity. All right? Self-identity is a principle of international law where any group of people can say, I'm African American. I don't care what those ARNA people are saying. And that's cool.
Right.
And we have to respect that. And we don't have to see that as confusion for our particular agenda. You see what I'm saying? We don't have to see that as, because now what happens is, and this is something that we're gonna have to learn because we're in our virgin stage. When we say our people, what do we actually mean? You see what I'm saying? Because if somebody decides in their own mindset to adopt European value systems and live by every day, right? And then you are moving in a different direction spiritually, culturally, economically, all the ways that you can think of, and you have groups of people that are similar moving with you, who might be a part of a body politic, those aren't your people. Is that hard for you to get? Did it just make something wiggle inside of you? It's your people genetically, right? Y'all the same genetically. Right now, we can take some people in this group and you can say, oh, well, we're related to some people in Senegal. They're your people genetically. You can't go up in a country without a passport, though. You can't go into their country and say, oh, we all the same people. Can I? No, you're going to be like, well, who are you? Well, yeah, we look alike. You look like cousin so and so, but we don't know you yet. How do you live? What's your value system? How do you marry? How do you do these particular things? So what happens to us as a people is, not necessarily in this room, is that our people think, oh, they have this we are the world mentality. And it's an undisciplined mentality because they bleed over into colonization so easily. They feel like it's okay. Oh, that's our people. Oh, that's our people. Or even the conscious people. Oh, power to the people. We fighting for our people. How you fighting for people who ain't fighting for you? That's madness. You can't fight for nobody who's not fighting them. A snitch will lay you out in a minute.
Oh boy.
You see what I'm saying? There has to be some level of integrity internally to function. People who have similar value systems can say, my people. Your children are your people. Your mate. Y'all married on the same value system? Your people. You know what I mean? Y'all both have some type of foundational nationality that is similar. Your people. We want to be loyal across lines where there's nothing holding us accountable. And that is a mistake. Because what's going to happen is, if there's a dispute, it's going to turn into opinions and arguments. You see what I'm saying? When people who have a common value system, and they say, we are citizens of the United States, all right? They all stand up. They all sing a Star-Spangled Banner. They all pay their taxes to their government to support their government. And when they have a dispute with a husband, wife, grandmother, whatever, if they can't talk it out, they go to court. They go to court. That's our value system. That's what we respect. We get divorced, we're going to deal with the marriage certificate, we're going to court. All right? So that's what you call jurisdiction. All right? So now when you have jurisdiction, no matter how small or large it is, you have something to be held accountable to, and then you can move in that vein. So that is see, now that goes into the concept of understanding that heritage is just not just information. All right? It's a model for people who have experienced what we've experienced to move gradually in a certain direction. All right? All right, so let me go to the next part of this, and then we can divert to questions. Everybody all right? Have I said anything that confuse you? I'm just showing you. I'm just trying to give you some basic history for those because some people have been in class for the first time. All right. So look, this is a depiction from 1775 of what the Native Americans look like. These don't look like the people in Oklahoma. These look like the brothers and sisters on the street. Now, what was this from? Francis Barlow, an Indian warrior entering his wigwam with a scalp from Thomas Anbury, travels through the interior parts of America. Barlow died in 1704, which means this was a depiction from the 1600s. Notice the woolly head and physique and skin color of what today would be a so-called Negro or African American. How is it that these so-called Indians, properly termed aboriginals, were declassified from their indigenous political status? The early colonists have changed the meaning and context as needed to fit their political pursuit to denationalize America's true indigenous people. All right, that's a war move, that's a socio-political move, that's an economic move for their benefit. That's cool, it happened. We're just highlighting that it happened. Check this out. Because I'm getting to, people ask me the question, oh, I got Indian in my family. Let me show you what's happening to you. All right? Let's show you these depictions. To the left, all right, the Dutch artist Jan Bareilles painted these paintings of so-called Mohawk chiefs. The ones who they allegedly bought New York from for a couple dollars. Manhattan. You know what I mean? Look at the Mohawk chiefs, all right, who visited London in 1710. Wait a minute. Why did you go to London? What kind of diplomatic things are these happening that we never knew about? I have a whole book on native peoples going to Europe and Africa for diplomatic relations. We don't read about that in civics or high school or college. All right. These paintings were housed in Kensington Palace. Kensington was a name given to an area in Philadelphia, right? We got Kensington here, right?
That's right.
All right. So now let me come to it. The original name of the Mohawks is Kanien'ke, all right, which resembles the word Canaan. or the Phoenician word for Canaan. The center picture is the chief of the Creek Confederacy, Tomochichi, all right, right here, and members of his nation in England in 1736. It's kind of far off, but you can see that how they look. Having intercourse with James Oglethorpe, then proprietor of the colony of Georgia. So some black people or some indigenous people, highly melanated people, went to Europe in the 1736 when they were setting up the colony of Georgia to have international relations. Like, okay, you come into our territory, listen, we got to talk to you about what's going on. Now you go to Georgia, who's there? If they were naturalized, they're coming from another place, then you got the Europeans and the people who are natives who call themselves African Americans. Period. The descendants of these people who don't know nothing about their historical diplomatic relations with the people who founded the so-called state of Georgia. All right. So all these visuals collaborate with, you know, the earlier things that we were discussing. All right. Everybody's seen Chief Tammany, right? Mm-hmm. We did our ritual. You know Chief Tammany. He's standing on the turtle, right down there on front of Market Street. He got all the same regalia on. All right. When William Penn said that he was black when he came here. All right. Check it out. Now I'm coming to my point to kind of close this out. All right. So April 20th, 1773. As all nations for 7 centuries past adopted some great personage remarkable for his virtues and love for civil and religious liberty as their tutelar saint. So this is a plaque giving credence to a saint. All right, and annually assembled on a fixed day to commemorate him. The natives of this flourishing province, determined to follow so laudable an example, for some years part have adopted a great warrior, a sachem and chief named Saint Tammany. That's the same one that said it on the turtle. A true friend to our forefathers, to be the tutelar saint of this province. All right? And have hitherto on the 1st of May done the accustomed honors to the memory of so great and celebrated a personage. And for the same purpose, you are requested to meet the children and associated what? Sons of Saint Tammany. Anybody know who the sons of Saint Tammany are? What their name in history was? All right. What was the sons of Saint Tammany? All right. On Saturday the next at the house of James Burns, whatever. John Dickinson. John Dickinson was a part of a group that's called the Sons of Liberty. Sons of Liberty were the sons of Saint Tammany. Those were the people who created what you call the American Revolution. All right. Those were the people who dressed up like natives and carried out the Boston Tea Party. They're the ones who revolted after being taught by us. They started the revolution against their country after they learned the form of government that we taught them that they now call a republic. So some of the people who taking the rites of passage stuff, they learned about the 3 branches and where it came from. It came from 3 branches from these particular people who are a part of Saint. So this is them worshiping you. This is 1773. All right. Here are the names of the 3 branches. All right. The Anami, the Munasi, and the Analaktagu were the 3 branches of government. We had the chiefs, 9 judicial officers, and 50 women who kept the oral traditions that are now called the legislative branch. That's where they get it from. So now, what you're calling democracy in the way that they're trying to shape it as a free system, they learned this from, it wasn't no democracy in England, it was a monarchy. They learned this from you. So now, the parts of it that look effective look like white people came up with something magical. They ain't come up with nothing magical. It's stolen property. It's stolen legacy, literally. So now we trying to figure out, how to defeat the adverse parts of their government that are affecting us. Look, and all right. So look, check it out. I'm gonna just keep going with this just for a few minutes. Look, John Sibley was a man who kept the reports for Lewis and Clark. When he was going in throughout what is called Louisiana, he found a tribe called Choctaw. Alright? And look what he said. They are rambling hunting parties of them to be met with all over Louisiana. Now remember, at this time, Louisiana was 14 states. It wasn't the, you know, what you call, you know, the forts. And it was what allegedly Napoleon did what? Sold it to who? To who? Thomas Jefferson. He just couldn't sell all that land. So what they did is, after they sold, they got control of what you call New Orleans through war with the natives. They sent an expedition, Lewis and Clark, as a spy mission on indigenous people. So Lewis and Clark took what? Sacagawea and York on them with the trip so that they could communicate with the tribes. You know the lady with the baby on her back that's on the money?
Yeah.
Sacagawea?
Yeah.
She was traveling with Lewis and Clark.
Wow.
Okay? So look, what is that? The Choctaw. They are at war with the Caldugis and liked by neither the red nor the white people. Wait a minute. Well, who else is left? The black people? So the Choctaw are black. Okay. But this is see now, this is uncovering the falsification of Native American history. Alright? So check this out. I'm just going through records. This is the war records from Washington, D.C. on the Seminole War. Alright? This is from a general who you can look up now. His name is Thomas Jesser. And this is what he had to say about the Seminole. Seminole War is the war in Florida, Georgia, lower parts of South Carolina. Look at what he said. This, you may be assured, is a Negro, not an Indian war. And if it be not speedily put down, the South will feel the effects of it on their slave population before the end of the next season. All right? If the war be carried on, it must necessarily be one of extermination. We have at no former period of our history, this is 1830s. I mean, prior to this, we have never experienced anything like this, had to contend with so formidable an enemy. So yeah, all kind of wars before this. You had the War of 1812, all right? You had the American Revolutionary War. You had the 7 Years' War. He's saying none of those compared to this. No Seminole proves false to his country, nor has a single instance ever occurred of a first-rate warrior having surrendered.
I see all of it.
Right. So their warriors didn't surrender.
That's right.
Kamikaze.
That's right. Great-grandmother.
You see what I'm saying? Exactly. Exactly. All right. So he goes on and talks about it. So what was going on in the Seminole area? Now here's where you break through the ice. I'm going right to it. So Duncan Clinch was a colonel, excuse me, for General Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson later became a president, right? Check out what he said. This is a fort in the same area with the Seminoles. This is 1816. All right, this is before the last general. And this is their quote from the war records. In the evening, a deputation of chiefs went into the fort and demanded its surrender. So now you got one group of so-called Native Americans, the fake ones, allying with Andrew Jackson and Colonel Duncan Clinch against another group, which they call them Seminoles. All right? But they were abused and treated with the utmost contempt. The black chief heaped much abuse on the Americans. They call them the Americans white folks. And said he had been left in command of the fort by the British government. So now, context in history, in 1812, what happened with the British? They burned down Washington, D.C. Remember that? War of 1812? All right, in the War of 1812, if you don't know, the British were allying with native tribes, and they burned down Washington, D.C. Right, exactly. So now, this Seminole chief had allied with the British against the Americans. The so-called Americans. They, co-opted the name. All right, so he allied with the British government, and that he would sink any American vessels that should attempt to pass it, and would blow up the fort if he could not defend it. The chief also informed me that the Negroes had a red flag. Now you know Negroes don't carry no flag. Same flag is found in West Africa. Same flag is found in what is called now Suriname. What was the red flag? Now it's called the word that they give it is the maritime flag. prior to that, it was the banner that the Moors used in their maritime travel across the Atlantic, in the Mediterranean. All right. So now here you have a so-called Negro with the flag flying it there. All right. Trying to defend this fort. All right. Look, we have a picture of him. Here he is. You want to see what he looked like? This is the brother. This is the actual picture later, after they developed photos, of the man who was flying the flag. This is later in the 1860s with his wife. Okay? His name was Sunafi Tustaniki. He was the one that was flying the red flag there. So, I mean, we don't have to guess. You can look right at him. All right? All right, so check it out. I'm just showing you some of this stuff so you can get some screenshots of it, take some pictures of it. All right? Again, the John Carter Brown Archives shows these blacks in Suriname, which is South America, with the red flag at their in their location. This is the Portuguese sending a black interpreter trying to negotiate with them. So the flag was flying in North America, it was flying in South America, and it was flying in West Africa. All right. So now, check it out. Here you go. Come from West Africa, all right? You can flow right into South America. You can flow right into the islands. You can go right into Charleston, all right? You go here, you go back to Europe, all right? This is your little triangle, all right? We knew about these currents, all right? A few years ago, there was a group of tribal Africans, so-called Africans, who traveled in 2 weeks into what is now Brazil, coming from West Africa. Took 2 weeks on a regular canoe boat. All right. So now we knew about these flowing basically rivers and the currents, or these currents that could take us to these different places. All right. We knew about the oceanography. That's my point. All right. Let me get to my point. Close out. All right, so there's one part I wanted to show you. See if I can find it really quickly. Everybody all right? Anybody need to stretch?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so look. This is from murals from a place in Mexico called Bonampak. Look at all the feathers. Look at the sisters with the locks. Look at the brothers with locks. These are Native Americans. That joint look like Cecil B. Moore. Look, that just came from the loctician. Why is this here, man? Why is this here and nobody knows about this stuff? This is what Native America looked like. This is Chiapas. Same city I mentioned earlier when we first started talking. Look at this. All right? So you can't just go call these people African because they got coiled hair and dark skin. That's colonization. The global African presence. Huh? I respect what you're trying to say, but you need somebody to help you with the language. Because there's a term in law that's called competence or competency. And in linguistics, you have to have the competency to meet the standard of what you're talking about lawfully or legally. To go call them Africans is to denationalize them. I'm pretty sure they wrote they did. They had glyph writing they did. They can tell you who they are. Why do you have to tell them who they are? See, we learned that from white folks. We're going to tell you that's who you are. No, you have to tell us who you are. Okay? So, I want to show you something, and this is going to blow your mind. So, I want to do it in a way that will help you understand the point that we're striving to get across. So, just give me one moment to get to it. There we go. There we go. All right, so when you look up the term Indians in like Corpus Juris Secundum or Black's Law Dictionary, it says the aboriginal inhabitants of North America. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so Indians is a misnomer describing the aboriginal population. All right, so if the term Indians only mean aboriginal inhabitants, then we can surmise, based on all evidence collected in this book, that when woolly-headed, dark-skinned folk were encountered, they were bundled into the Indian misnomer. It happened, okay? So the point is, you didn't marry into no populations to become indigenous. You were already here. Yet today, we rarely see anyone with woolly hair and deep hue saying that I am an aboriginal to America. You see a bunch of other people, damn near white, some looking kind of mongoloid, and they all capturing that. Why? How it occurred with the Choctaw. Now look, here's a Native American chief. Greenwood LaFleur, Choctaw chief appointed after the Indian removal. So you know what Indian removal was? Trail of Tears, 1832. Trail of Tears came after the war that I just mentioned with the Seminoles. So they had all these black people who were indigenous, right? They go into war with them. When they force them further west, they pushing the people out and saying, well, listen, this is what we're going to do. Y'all can come to Oklahoma, right? And we're going to set up some kind of census to protect the women and the children who were left after the war. Essentially, so y'all got to help come over here and walk all the way to Oklahoma. And then have different camps and stations. Go ahead, bro.
I watched a program on TV one time, and they say one of our grandparents who refused to give up their heritage, they took them out to Oklahoma. The ones who gave it up, they let them stay there. That's why we didn't wind up knowing who we were.
That's partly true. All right. So look, after in removal, here comes this guy. All right. His father was French, a fur trader. All right. And his mother, Rebecca Cravitt, was a Mingwe. We mentioned what a Mingwe was earlier. All right. All right. She was the niece of Push Mataha. All right. He encouraged the Choctaw to move westward, cultivate the reservation land and agriculture, convert to Christianity, and send their children to United States schools for education. Sounds like a plan to me. A hell of a plan.
Can you repeat what the Mingwe was again?
Mingwe were the offshoot of the Austronesian populations, the Mongoloid populations. All right. So here you go. Look, all of a sudden he just became a chief. He got appointed. This was his father-in-law right here. All right. Push Mataha, the trader who sided with the whites and rejected the union with who? Tecumseh. Remember who Tecumseh was? All right. Tecumseh and his brother were a group of Native Americans in the American Northwest who fought against a general named William Henry Harrison, who became a president. Right? They were supposed to make this alliance of peace to stop the wars between the natives and the so-called Americans, the white folk. And William Henry Harrison broke the alliance. So Tecumseh family put a curse on the presidency and said that your great leaders will die in 20-year increments. They did a ritual. And what happened? William Henry Harrison was the first one to die.
Right.
He became president in 1840. He died in office.
Right.
Then 20 years later, Abraham Lincoln came in office in 1860. He died in office. And subsequently, every 20 years you had it. 1880, 1900. Some of these I don't remember anymore. But 1920, 1940, Roosevelt died of conditions in office. 1960, Kennedy died. And then Reagan came. And then what did Nancy Reagan do? She hired an astrologist to undo the ritual. But Reagan still got shot, but he didn't die. And that was supposed to lift the ritual of what they did to the president. All right? But this guy was fighting against these aboriginals. All right? He allied with the white folks. So this was his father-in-law. He married her daughter. So now, look, don't get upset. Look at the allegiances. We building our stuff, and your daughter got to marry him, and they're building their husbandry. They're building their families up. They're using our system. But niggas want to go to the club to find a woman. I'm a nationalizer, God. This is going to take a little while. Let's start off by giving her some alchemy. She's still, got some problems. Like, dude, how you going to skip over all the women that's already here? That already, look at this Native American chief. Look, that's a Native American chief according to what they're telling us. All right? John Ross. Ross was considered to be dictatorial, greedy, and an aristocratic leader who sought to defraud the Cherokee Nation. This was a Cherokee chief. $5. All right? Ross came to power through his business savvy, tobacco farm, and ferry business, and political apprenticeship. Due to his wealth and Scottish ancestry, his father was Daniel Ross, all right, a white Scot, and his mother, Molly McDaniel, was said to be half Scottish and Mingwe, so-called Cherokee. Look at this, man. This is whitewash, man. This is literally genocide. See, the thing about it is, people expect us not to be able to give this history. They expect us to be like, oh, y'all trying to fake like y'all Native Americans because y'all don't want to be African. Y'all niggas hate Africa. No, we don't. We absolutely do not. We're trying to give a footnote of explanation on what you did to history. There's no way this man is a Native American. It's impossible. This is not a Native American, dude. But he's considered a Native American chief. All right, there's people who look like him who are... Look at what these people did now. Look like him who get money. Now, I got this picture from the University of Pennsylvania. This is Tyre Denaga. This is another chief who went to Europe to visit them. All right? You get it? All right. When he went to London in the 1700s, when he got to London, this is how they painted him. So when you Google Joseph Brant, which is the name they gave him, or Tyre Denaga, it's going to come up with this. This one you have to go to a rare library to get the picture. Come on, how is this happening? Look. It's the same thing. So-called Jesus. Look, this is Caesar Borgia. This is Joshua. How many times do white people have to do this before we get it? One day there's going to be Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Ali Muhammad, the founder of Arnold. Look at him. It can happen. If you don't protect your heritage, it can happen. I'm pretty sure he didn't think that he was going to be painted like that. All right. So look, this is our heritage. Now look, this is my last part. Okay. Here we go. This is where y'all. Some people might get mad at me, but it's all right. Anybody know who these guys are right here? These some old turtles. Oh, rabbit chicken foot. Sambo. All right, so these three, yeah, Richard Allen. Richard Allen, I ain't gonna say too much bad things, but he was. Yeah. All right, so these were the three men who participated in something called the American Colonization Society. They were Masons and Reverends. All right, the American Colonization Society created a Back to Africa movement with white Masons. If you can defeat the argument, please bring the literature. We hear every week. All right? And rightfully so. All right, so let us not entertain the proofs that I'm making that uphold the fact that the American Colonization Society, remember this and go research it, which was designed to establish a colony in Africa, and it did. All right? Which we call Liberia. All right? For free blacks was started by 7 white men who worked with these 3 preachers to do it. So now, you see how the denationalization is working, all right? So, January 15th, 1817, James Forten and other black leaders, Absalom Jones and Richard Allen, called a meeting at Bethel Church, which is right down there on South Street.
No, Lombard.
Lombard, it is Lombard, yep, the block up, yes sir. To discuss the American Colonization Society and the idea of colonization. So in that church on Lombard Street, they had 3,000 black people to vote on this issue. Prominent people in the community, South Street used to be all black, first of all. You gotta understand that. South Street was all black. And then of course, they did the gentrification thing that they're doing now. All right. Almost 3,000 black men packed the church. The major and prominent black leaders, James Forten, Richard Allen, John Gloucester, who I don't have a picture of, and Absalom Jones, were in favor of immigrating to Africa. Now, after they met with the white boys, they came to the community with it. That's how it happens. They meet in secret with the white folks, and then they come to y'all like, oh, we got this big plan. Listen, we got a problem here. The political leadership got a problem with the free blacks. So let's do this. Let's set up a colony in Liberia, and most of us can go there because they don't want us here anyway. Look at what they said now. However, when Forten called for those in favor to say yay, not a single word was heard. When he called for those opposed, one tremendous no rang out that seemed as if it would bring down the walls of the building. As Forten, see now they got letters on this stuff. This is all documentary evidence. You can go right down to the Pennsylvania Historical Society and get these letters. As Forten wrote to Paul Cuffey on January 25th, there was not one soul that was in favor of going to Africa. These are the free people.
The Cuffey suggested when we get the ones in slavery to send them back.
Right.
When they asked Cuffey.
Right. Richard Allen and James Forten spoke warmly of the colonization and were animated by the subject in their meetings with Robert Finley. This is the white boy they met with in 1817. So this is the source, so you can get it. Memoirs of Reverend Robert Finley, who was a white Mason, by Isaac Brown. Pages 99 through 102. All right? And Gary Nash gave the full account of the January 15th meeting at Mother Bethel. He stated Allen Forten and Absalom Jones all spoke in favor of colonization, but were rebuked by the vast majority of free blacks in attendance. Okay? So, who are the 7 white people who they met with to denationalize you, to hide the history? Bushrod Washington, slave owner and nephew of George Washington, a Supreme Court justice and president of the American Colonization Society, a slave owner. Who else did they meet with? Robert Finley. This is the first person they met with. A Presbyterian minister and professor. Was briefly the president of the University of Georgia. Finley was born in Princeton, New Jersey, and graduated from Princeton. At age 15, he taught at several places, including Charleston, South Carolina. Slaveville 101. Francis Scott Key, district attorney, was an American lawyer, author, and amateur poet from Georgetown who wrote the words of the United States national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. He wrote that. That's him. He was in favor of migrating the people from Africa. He wrote the Star Spangled Banner, and he was the district attorney of Washington, D.C.
Wasn't he on the boat down there when while that was going on?
I'm not sure.
It seemed like he was on a boat or something. And while this was going on, they saw the flag still standing, and that's when you got the idea to write the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh wow, I don't know. I don't know the history of how he got so-called inspired to write it.
Okay.
Who else? James Monroe, 5th President of the United States. His administration was marked by the acquisition of Florida, the Missouri Compromise, in which Missouri was declared a slave state, the Monroe Doctrine. You ever hear that?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Henry Clay, Secretary of State. He looked like it.
Look at that stone face.
19th century American statesman and orator who represented Kentucky in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Daniel Webster, all right, was a leading American statesman during the nation. That was his cousin, Noah Webster.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? So now, Noah Webster, Daniel Webster, they giving you a dictionary. Black is evil.
Exactly.
White is godly.
White is pure.
Yeah.
That's where you get it from. That's family. You see what I'm saying? See, brother. Oh, brother, you don't know. Brother Ali, you abandon your moral science. Black means evil. But you got it from them. I'm just saying. Damn. Why do white people gotta tell me what words mean? You follow me? Of course they're not gonna say that anything that's other than opposite of them or not like them is that it's politics. And you see who that is? Your boy, Andrew Jackson, the real Moorish killer.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, listen. You ever heard the story? George Washington chopped down the cherry tree?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
him.
That's who did it?
He was the one that chopped down the cherry tree.
What?
He literally, when I went over the story about his colonel, Duncan Clinch, going to take that red flag from Gaddafi, it was him who sent him.
Whoa.
He sent him to chop down the cherry tree. Literally. That the flag is the red flag is called the cherry tree.
Yeah, right.
It's called the cherry tree. All right. Yep, that's him.
Okay.
So all right. So look, my last few points. All right. So look up the American Colonization Society because the idea was to co-opt the history of our people. Use it to co-opt the history of our people. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. So look, check it out. Check it out. You can barely see this. Maybe I can, if I have another list of these, I can show you. So look. Now, here's the last part. Here's the political and the economic part to close out my point and I bring Brother Minister Troy. All right. So this is a list from the Federal Reserve Bank of something called primary dealers. Now, why am I doing this? All right. It's important to understand fundamentally that black people, so-called black people, whatever you want to call indigenous people, cannot solve their problems without having a thorough knowledge of how the problems arose. You're just going to be stuck going in a circle. Not even going in a circle, going in a square. All right? They tell us, okay, well, you can vote your way into power. So you need to register to vote. Everybody registered to vote. But P. Diddy, back then, he had the T-shirts for Obama to get into office. Like, listen, let's vote our way in. All right, you're going to go vote. We put Obama in office 2008. Boom. Then we went to you can't just vote on the federal level. You got to vote on the local level. So, yeah, we're going to put, so-and-so in office and boom, boom, boom. Here's the issue. Being a political officer of of these entities means nothing except for you could possibly get some contracts from them to do certain services. Let's say you wanted to contract with the city of Philadelphia schools and you had a janitorial business and you had political friends in city council, something like that. You can get some contracts like that. Now you can get some business. But for the overall vision of a group of people, no, it's not happening. Because they're puppets. They don't run nothing. They're just running mouth. They're not running nothing.
Come on.
All right? They're not running anything.
That's right.
If somebody is coercing you into participating into political processes, you just need to ask them a few political questions. How is the government funded? First question I'm gonna ask you. Yeah. How does the city of Philadelphia get its money? How does the Philadelphia County get its money? How does the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania get its money? How does the federal government get its money? How do the townships get their money? How do the schools get their money? Who is making the money move? When you answer that question, you see the people who have the power and the influence. Once you identify those people, you look at them and say, well, what are their objectives? Because they are the ones that shape the objectives of all the politicians. Then the politicians take that and shape the objectives of the people, and the people go with it, often to their own detriment. And you say, wow, that's a big-ass, massive operation. It's actually not that big. It's not. It's not that big. All right? That's a lot of contract law, but it's not that big. Here's the two words that are required to make the whole thing move. Because now we're coming off your heritage, been denationalized, you're participating in a system that we don't understand, and we're doing it to our own detriment. So we need some amendments to try to get things gradually moving in another direction for your own self, for your family, if you created it, family, and then for generally the community, specifically the businesses that you're running and how you're running them. I'm coming to that. So, what are the two words? Two words. Only two words that make all this stuff move. Faith and credit.
Full faith and credit. Oh, man.
Faith and credit. All right. Faith and credit make everything move. If the people lose faith, they start marketing to you things that make you afraid to regain your faith, so that they can regain the ability to secure you in the false security. For instance, when someone can't pay their bills, we call them insolvent. They can't pay their bills. Their debts outweigh, their ability to pay them. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get a credit score that's real low. You got student loan people out. You got all kind of people on it. You're like, yo, I can't pay them. It's insolvency. Right? So what do you do when you're insolvent? Well, you either stay insolvent or you deal with some form of liquidation. All right. Here's the point that you need to understand inside of the United States of America. These folks figured out a real slick way to turn debts into assets. And how did they do it? They created middlemen and women into the ability of people to contract with each other. So if me and you want to do some business together, we're using notes, right, immediately, and then usually we're using some type of third-party system. I want you to come do some construction at my house. Right? In order for you to do the construction, you got to make sure you got all these permits to come activate what you're going to activate. All right? And so now you got permission to come work. And you're working under a business. Who are you working for? Oh, I'm working for Charles Lee Construction. What is Charles Lee Construction? It's a company I registered down in the municipality. You know what I mean? I went and got my EIN from the IRS. See all these third parties. And then now I can come because I got the business EIN, I got the business register, I got the permits. I can come to you to say I can serve you now.
Start doing it.
That's how most of us do business, right? So while we're making that interchange, once you're done, I pay you. Now what you do is say, okay, I got the money. But before the year is out, you're going to go write something down on documents, 1040s or for the W-2s and all the 1099s or whatever. You'll collect, so you go pay all those people. State taxes, federal taxes or whatever, if necessary. Or you're going to file. All right? So now, these people set up this system. Because when you chase the full faith and credit, we are groomed to be faithful in it because we know no other form of operation, which makes sense. You should do what you should do if you have no alternative means. And then the credit goes to these people. All right? The money. Who are these people? Primary dealers serve, let me read it from my computer, serve as trading counterpartners of the New York Fed in its implementation of monetary policy. The role includes the obligations to participate consistently in open market operations, to carry out U.S. monetary policy pursuant to the direction of the Federal Open Market Committee, and to provide the New York Fed's trading desk with market information and analysis helpful in the formulation and implementation of monetary policy. So they have to give the Fed information in order for them to know how to run monetary policy. Why is that reversed? Since they are just businesses, why aren't you giving them the instructions? Because I'm the bank. Pay attention. Primary dealers are also required to participate in all auctions. Say it again. Primary dealers are also required to participate in all auctions of U.S. government debt. You ever been to an auction and bought a car? What are they doing?
They're selling something.
So now, why are the primary dealers required to participate in the auctioning of U.S. debt? All right, and to make reasonable markets for the New York Fed when it transacts on behalf of its foreign official account holders. Okay, let me show you how they're doing this. Federal Reserve discount window. What does it have to do with me? It has a lot to do with you. We'll get to it. Pledge and collateral. All discount window advances must be secured by collateral acceptable to the Reserve Bank. Ouch. Ouch. So now they're going and buying U.S. obligations, which is debt. The debt is held by or calculated as the national debt and the federal debt. All right? And you can go to the Department of Treasury website, treasury.gov, and they calculate it to the penny every day. A lot of counting. How the hell are you able to count debt to the penny every day? To the penny? 300 million people make a transaction and you got it to the penny every day? These people, which the ones I mentioned, they all work together and they control everything around you through subsidiaries. You pay PICO, they control PICO. You pay PGW, through sub-entity, they control PGW. So that's gas and electric. You got a mortgage, they control your mortgage companies. All right, so you got the mortgage companies in there. The financing for your car, they control those companies. Your credit card, they control those. Your debit, and they control those. Every transaction that you make, those 21 companies directly or through a subsidiary are doing the account holding. You go to the bank for a loan, the underwriter says it's okay, the underwriter works for them. So now, what have they done? They set up a very elaborate system of credit that can be kept on computer mainframes that can clear and do a whole bunch of things. Okay, so their collateral is called human capital. And the human capital that is their collateral is the ability of the citizens to engage in what they think is contract. So everything you think is a contract. I went to the DMV, I got my license. Boom. You never watched them, but if you go change your address on your license or something the next time you do that, go watch when you pay and you bring the application, what the lady does to your money order and the application. She's going to be there. This black lady be right there. They got the ticket. They're going to come. They're going to take your money order, stamp it, take it, stamp it. You never look at it. Oh, what's that? I looked at it. Can I see what you stamped on that one time? Wells Fargo. Pay to the order of Wells Fargo? I'm confused. I thought I was dealing with PennDOT. What's PennDOT's relationship with a private bank? Then you go to the things that deal with the faith and the credit, which is called the general obligation bonds. And it says right on there, Wells Fargo is the loan and transfer agent for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and all of its entities. So you pay for your license registration fee, it goes to Wells Fargo. You pay your traffic ticket, it goes to Wells Fargo. You pay your parking ticket, it goes to Wells Fargo. Well, what the hell is Wells Fargo doing to get all this money? Oh, Wells Fargo contracts with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the city of Philadelphia, and all of them to give them an open bank account to set their budgets. So now, in advance, all the teachers are paid for, all the sanitation workers are paid for, all the officers of government, city council, mayor, everybody paid for. They can just write open checks, and at the end, they accumulate what you call the principal of what they operated for that year. And once they accumulate that amount, that's a part of a bond, and they have to pay interest, that and interest back to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo takes whatever they have paid in actual in the end of their operation, all right? So if the teachers got paid, everybody got paid, you got to pay that plus interest. That's what you call a budget. And once that is paid, Wells Fargo says, here you go, DTC. DTC says, here you go, Seed and Company. Seed and Company is these 21 companies. Thank you. Charge it to the game. So that's a general schematic of how all this stuff is working. Right? So let me give you another example so you can see where our vision is. You could go to, let's say you want to go to New Mexico, right? You're in New Mexico, you're riding down the highway, see a car, tribal police. Right past the school, Navajo Reservation, the biggest reservation in North America for natives, right? You go down there, got their own schools, got their own hospital, got their own police, got all the other stuff that they need, right? multiple cars. They got everything. Okay. So they have all of these things, and if you get pulled over on their reservation, it's not New Mexico police. It's not Santa Fe police department. It's their police department. So they've been able to set up a jurisdiction based on having people who are tribal members and having assets. And of course agreements too. How does that juxtapose to these people? These people aren't running their operation per se. Partially because they do get funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, but the concept that I'm trying to show you is that they've been able to set up a jurisdiction that is inside of a nation, all right, and operate autonomy. All right, some level of semi-autonomy, all right? So what I'm saying is, if you have a different way of doing business that's quiet but effective, you can just do it. So if you come to me, right, and you say you want to start a business, I'm not going to take you to the municipality. I'm going to register a business with our jurisdiction. And then I'm going to show you how you can go into their jurisdiction and use it just like everybody else uses it, quietly like a ninja, and then come back home with all of your energy. How simple is that? Now you multiply that idea by thousands of people or whatever, billions, shit. What it equals is now we're keeping our own energy and we have a technique that is closed off from these people and the layers that they create. You follow me? So now, if everybody got some money in their pocket, because they're taking home what they got, now people can say, well, let's do this. Let's do this. But you have to have a schematic. All right? Again, when they created the Indian removal, they said, you must be Christianized and educated by us. Why? Because we don't want you thinking for yourself. You need a white God. And you need white culture. All right? So brothers ain't talking about, maintaining their communities. They talking about how many women they can pop. That's the culture. That's Greek. That's Greece. Now we in Greece. You see what I'm saying? So now look, we've been programmed to destroy the very thing that we're supposed to be protecting, brothers. You follow me? You programmed to destroy the thing you're supposed to protect, naturally. Naturally, you're designed to protect it, but because of the lifestyle, all right, you destroy it. And then you come to the sisters, instead of looking like Queen Nzinga or any other, you're trying to look like Kim Kardashian. Because your standard has changed. All right? Instead of having the children at home and breastfeeding, the children are on Similac. All right? And you're at the hospital denationalizing. So our point is, there has to be an educational component to tell our people what's happening and give them a viable option to make a different choice. They don't have to all make the choice. It just has to be enough to be a self-contained entity to move through time and space. Because the end result is, if we're practicing the thing that is our design, we'll have perpetual success. That's it. That's the math of it. If we're practicing the thing that is like what we see, that's crumbling, we're going to crumble with it. That's it. There's no magical nothing. So now you have to be loyal to something. You see what I'm saying? You can't go home because you're frustrated because you got 3 jobs and take it out on your wife. You need to figure out how to get off those 3 plantations that you're circulating to. Now you can come home and have some peace and more resources. All right? Sister, you can't sit down and watch Empire all night and then give your husband hell. You start living out the program. So now you have internal mechanisms that you have to take active steps to change, because no mystery God is going to change it. Ain't no ancestors going to come down and zap the Neteru on your ass and make stuff get right. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to happen, dude. It's not going to happen. There's no mystery going to change this situation. So we're waiting on the great thing to happen. Oh, the stars are aligning, and then when that star hits that star at 33 degrees, all black people are going to wake up. Nigga, are you crazy? You know what I mean? Stars aligning right now? The great catastrophe is going to happen. All right? The flood is going to happen. Yahweh is going to zap all the white people. I mean, we make up anything. You know, the mothership is going to destroy all evil people and drop bombs on the cities. Goddamn, we live in the cities. Where we going to be at? Don't we need a plan? Jesus Christ is going to slide down on the sliding board with his angels. Damn, well, he going to kill the people that you're loyal to. What are you going to do for you? You see what I'm saying? We're living out these crazy imaginations. All right? I'm going to go to heaven and get my 70 virgins. You going to eat grapes and wear silk? Damn, what are they making? Wait, are they making silk out of thin air? Silk is made from a worm. I'm gonna wear my pants high because I don't want to be in hellfire. I'm in the dunya. So my point is, it's easy to become a victim of mind control. It's easy because the object is to get you to be faith, and then to get your credit. Your credit is your energy. Your faith is your willing to open up. And all that is required to have is trust. Then they put you in a real, literal trust. The church puts you in the trust, and you're not the beneficiary. Puts you in the trust, and you're not the beneficiary. All these entities are putting you into trust, literally. Body politics. So our remedy is we got to put our heads together, and no matter how we have to do it, we have to get through all the challenges to figure out the basic blueprints to keep ourselves functional. That's it. That's it. All right? And then we do it in the name of our Creator and our ancestors, based on real mathematics, not based on some spooky thing that's going to happen that's going to wake everybody up. All right? If you leave here today and you go to Church's Chicken, there's no reason for you to take my herbs. What you taking the herbs for?
Right, that's right.
Just eat the chicken and die.
That's right.
Just get the cancer and let it take over you. Why are you mixing and, you know what I mean? That's grafting. You're either going to be gradually about improving yourself or not. All right? If you leave here today and you go take a drink of alcohol and you've been taught by us not to do it, that's on you. We know what's going to happen to your liver cells. All right? We know what's going to happen to your spleen. We know what's going to happen to your brain. And then if you get into a fight, why call me and ask me for an affidavit? I ain't giving it to you, nigga. You see what I'm saying? Like, we have to, at some point, you have to take responsibility. Here's the beautiful part. The more you start taking responsibility, the more you experience the benefits of responsibility. So get addicted to that. Because that's a lawful addiction. You see what I'm saying? The other addictions are not lawful. All right? So when we go home, sometimes there's somebody right next to us or in our own house that's trying to defeat our progress. They're not trying to do it intentionally necessarily, but they're grappling with things. And so we have to become scientists about protecting ourselves and helping people come into their own power. Our duty and honor is to present a template and to allow that template to work itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few questions and then I'm going to bring up Brother Troy so we can, close this out. So any question that you have about anything I said today or I didn't say, I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't have the answer, we go research and bring the answer. Peace, God, Brother Derek.
Yeah. The red man, so they pretty much came from like where you were saying those $5 Indians. That was
$5 Indians, and we mentioned the Austronesian populations that come from the areas in the Pacific, who at certain points, like we highlighted in the book, at certain points they were leaving areas that were in catastrophic shape to try to get to safe areas. So most of them landed in what's now we call California, in the western part of the United States and the western part of Mexico. And then they came into Mexico City around 1320. And they talked about the people who they encountered, the serpent people. And then 200 years later, the Spanish came. So when the Spanish came, they had a different dynamic in Mexico City. By that time, the serpent people had been turned into slaves of the Aztec. You follow? So they don't give that chronology. They just say, what happened when the Spanish came is that these are all Negroes and now they're all from Africa. pretty much.
Is your law master's class, is that in the classroom or is it purely online?
It's in the classroom. We're doing it right now. We in going to week 3.
Cause I'm training right now for the LSAT with Kaplan, I'm trying to be in law school by August.
Mhm.
I wanted to take,
Concurrently with your law school, you want to take the course?
Right.
Okay, yeah, we do it usually in 10-week increments. So we're doing it right now. It'll probably be done early December, and then we probably won't do another one, live one, until the first week of January.
And that'd be in the classroom.
Yeah, literally in the classroom, literally. You know what I mean? In Germantown.
Yes, if you, say for instance, you're national, and you have no family, and you have property, and you have no family leave it till you expire, how would honest step in there to handle that?
If you have absolutely no relatives, then there's 2 things that we could do. We could do something called intestate succession, where we could take, the documents that we have and say you were part of our society, verify you were part of our society, and that you have no living relatives that we know of on the record, and then go through a procedure to, claim the property. But if somebody pops up and says, I have documentation that I'm a relative, then they will have priority over group. Yes. I'm coming to you next.
have a business, and it is part of Army.
Say the first word. You have a business.
A business,
And it's part of.
and it's part of Army. And it's an ecclesiastical entity,
It's ecclesiastical.
but working with the state, they wanted to be registered. That's not something we want to do, or is that something we have to do?
So you're contracting with the state to do business, some type of business.
They require us because of a license.
All right. So a license that you need, and the statutory requirement says you have to be registered with the state. All right. So first of all, you don't want to be an ecclesiastical entity doing that. You want to be a tribal business, a real tribal business. And what I mean is the ecclesiastical entity is different because it doesn't have a particular form that we use to, one, not only show who the responsible party is, but to show the type of business it was formed as a tribal business that's not ecclesiastical. So you need to highlight that, because whatever field that you're, it could be insurance.
Right.
This is a tribal business, insurance business. So that'll be highlighted on both the IRS mainframe, Department of Treasury mainframe, and in our records. So you can start that business in our jurisdiction, get an EIN that's exempt, all right, and then go and make the registration with the state, post the documents being sealed by us, all right. By doing that, you're still staying in your tribal business operation. So essentially, what you'll be doing is, when you make your contracts or whatever, after you get in whatever, insurances, other things that you need, bonding, then when you get paid, all you have to do is fill out the W-9 form with the proper information. Because the simplicity of it is, when the IRS gets a W-9, they have a business mainframe on the entity. And if it's not listed as an exempt entity, then after the subsequent 3 years, they're going to come after you to pay. But if it's listed as exempt, they're not going to come after you to pay, and then you can just carry on your business and contract with the state or whoever else, federal government, whoever else. You just can't be an employee. If you're doing independent contracting, it's cool. If you become an employee, that's a different operation, and for you to try to make a claim for exemption, we can't back you 100% because we can only back you 100% as a exclusively tribal, entrepreneurial operation. But we can help you with the procedure to see if they're willing to accept it.
So, if you already have the ecclesiastical identity, you're saying it should be changed just to a
It should
tribal?
be adjusted for the type of business that you're doing.
Okay.
Absolutely. And you can make that adjustment by contacting Troy or one of the ministers, and then we can get the EIN and reseal the document and do all of that. And we can date it properly to fit the need that you have. Okay. I'm come here and then come need. Just a second.
Well, I was in Ireland, St. Patrick's supposed to bring serpents out of Ireland, and I heard this guy St. Patrick was an Italian.
Yeah. He wasn't even from that island. So usually,
That was us they were talking about.
yeah, usually with serpents, people, you'll see that it's us. Serpent people.
So we had a foothold in Ireland and in Scotland, 2 islands.
Ireland, Scotland, Britannia, Germany, Spain, all those areas.
Oh, all of them?
All of them.
Yeah, I knew about Spain, you know, and Ireland, and Scotland got to be, you know, because I know the Masonic things come out of Scotland and York, Scotland and York rites.
Yeah, yeah. The York Rite and the Scottish Rite were variations of. Well, first of all, the York Rite is older, and if you want to study Masonry, study the York Rite, because then you'll see the universities that the Moors set up that those rites came out of. And then, of course, then later they made the Scottish Rite. But all those Masonic rites were, for lack of a better word, Moorish rites of passage. You know what I mean? And then they took it, they kept it for their local operations, and then now they're presupposing that they created the dynamic.
Another thing about Scotland also, when you take the fences itself, if you turn it over, it's called Belfast. Inside it, you ring it, the bell.
Right.
Because a lot of pull they have, you know, also.
Yes,
So
yes.
tell people. I was there too, brother.
Peace,
Yeah,
man.
we were
I had a lot of
definitely.
nationals reach out to me about property tax exemption. I've never done it myself.
Okay.
I don't know where to direct them to, so I was wondering if there was a procedure or how does that go?
Well, we have a procedure. Pretty much right now, you can direct them to me, and then I can lay out for them the type of forms that they have to fill out, where they have to take it, the type of business that they want to use to do that, and then post their submission of the application, how they want to, because they usually do either a drive-by or an inspection on the property. Right. So it's you know, they usually tell you when they're coming. So you know, the house or the place that you're doing it in has to have at least one day a week is being used for the means by which you put on the application. And then yeah, that's it. And then they can update. You have to update that annually.
So just send them to you.
You can send them to me. I mean, for now, you know what I mean, till we get more people to know how to do it. I got people in the law class that are in there now that we're specifying, you know, particular documentation on how to do it. But you can send them to the emails and numbers on the website. You know what I mean, on government
But
reparations.
there's some people in the law class now too, so they should be learning that.
Yeah, literally. So for right now, if they want to contract to do that as a service, then that's cool. If they have been a law master before and they need to do it, they just need to wait a little while because they'll get the procedure. You see what I'm saying? So some of y'all who've been in the law class who don't have that procedure in detail, y'all get that. But if it's just clients who want to do it, then you can send them to the email and then we can knock it out. Peace.
Peace. What's your website, and if so, do you have any literature on there for people trying to transition into the right diet?
Yes, absolutely. The website is governmentreparations.org. Government reparations with the S.org. All of the books are on there, hard copy, ebooks. The book that I would recommend is this book right here, Black Biology and Nutrition.
Reparations.org.
Government reparations with the S.org. That's where you go to get all the literature, ebook or hard copy, and then this is the book that I would recommend. All right, this book has about 40 pages of recipes in it. It gives the basis of studying, you know, why to eat certain foods. For instance, like some of our people eat collard greens. We tell our people not to eat collard greens because of what it does in the black body.
What?
All right?
Collard greens?
Collard greens, yeah.
Oh.
Collard greens are problematic. It's for animals with ruminant stomachs, multiple stomachs, because you can't digest it. And what it does is, it saps up all of your minerals. All right? Because it has these things, a high thing called oxalates that zap all your minerals out. So you thinking you're getting a chlorophyll-based nutritious food,
Yeah,
and you're not.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's just an example of something type. So we give you the alternative different types of greens to eat. You know.
Kale.
There's only one type of kale that you should eat, and that's the dinosaur kale. All the other kales are hybrids, and they also high in oxalates, poison.
Whoa.
He says parasites in watermelon a couple weeks back.
No, ain't no parasites in watermelon. Unless it's a non-organic watermelon that has been genetically engineered, like with pesticides in it, and it can create an environment for pathogens to develop. But watermelon is one of the best foods on the planet to eat. Seeded. Black seeds.
Yes, sir. Liberated fruit.
Yeah, you gotta liberate the fruit, because they done grafted and changed it, de-seeded it, injected with terminated genes. Hey, listen, we at war, folks. I mean, listen, white folks are treacherous. I just gotta tell y'all the truth. We know it from different experience, whether you've been in the penal institutions or whether you've been in corporate America, they vicious. And they know they're vicious. They are about that. They're about you saying it.
About that dollar.
So we gotta recognize that. Peace, guys.
I got a flash drive. I was gonna ask you, can you put some stuff on that?
What type of stuff you want?
No, the stuff that you was.
I don't know if I'm gonna plug it into my computer yet, because you got a virus on that joint.
No, the stuff you was showing.
Oh, the slide. You want to get the PowerPoint? I'll give you that. I'll give you the
Yeah, 'cause
PowerPoint.
I was on the phone, like I really wasn't. I mean, somebody had a jail phone call. Somebody. And I went,
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you the PowerPoint.
Yeah, 'cause I missed everything. I ain't gonna lie. And I was falling asleep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look.
Go ahead, Brother Troy.
Just real quick, it's interesting as you were showing the different pictures of the quote-unquote Native Americans, but dressed in the feathers and stuff. A friend of mine actually from East Africa, he was talking about their tribal wear. So when he saw that,
That's theirs too.
he's like, this from
Global.
home.
Global.
Yeah, so it was just interesting because as you see that, a lot of the stuff that they do once you get there versus here, it mirrors one another.
Right. Right.
I forgot the second thing, yeah.
All right, we'll come back to you when you get it. All right, go ahead.
Baby arugula, is that good?
Yeah, arugula is good.
Baby arugula.
Yeah, baby arugula and arugula are the same plant, just a little bit younger.